Once we smash the Triarchy, they name me King of the Narrow Sea. But I know that there is only one true king, Your Grace.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a spotlight on a character who George R.R. Martin has said is his favorite Targaryen. I'm going to look at his portrayal on the show and how it lines up with the Fire and Blood version. And I'm also going to analyze how consistent the show was in presenting such a complex character and how Matt Smith did in the role. And of course, there will also be a bit in here about the best dragon in the A Song of Ice and Fire world, the one and only Caraxes. So let's dive in. One of the things I liked best in season 1 was the depiction of Daemon's relationship with Viserys. Daemon is shown as bold, decisive, impulsive, and a man of action. Viserys, on the other hand, is cautious and more malleable. He would have been happier if instead of ruling the Seven Kingdoms, he could have squirreled himself away to read history and other solitary pursuits. Despite their differences, though, the two had an unbreakable bond. Their relationship would bend, greatly sometimes, but it never fully broke. Although Otto took great satisfaction in painting Daemon out as a dangerous rogue prince who had designs on Viserys' throne, Otto's claims were untrue. Daemon's actions in the Stepstones were an outlet of sort, not a move to build up his resume to take the crown. That was made all very clear upon his return to King's Landing. All that Daemon ever sought from Viserys was the respect and consideration he felt he deserved as his brother. He detested Otto and was infuriated that Viserys valued his counsel. But despite his disdain for his brother's choices, he always cared deeply for him.
I will not have Driftmark beggared while our king idles himself with feasts and balls and tourneys.
I will speak of my brother as I wish. You will not.
Imagine how much better the realm would have been with Daemon in his hand, providing the perfect balance to Viserys' nature, and also helping to ensure the succession of Rhaenyra. Viserys, too, was at his happiest when Daemon was at his side, even if their opposing personalities often made it difficult for them to coexist for long. There were so many great nonverbal moments throughout the season between Viserys and Daemon. This one, though, stood out the most to me. It was after Viserys' death, when Daemon held his brother's crown. When it comes to a bond between a dragon and their rider, none is closer than the one Daemon has with Caraxes. They showed this early in the season, and it was something they were very consistent with throughout. Caraxes' connection with him was so strong that he would come when Daemon was in peril, and at other points when he needed him. When Daemon was wounded in the Stepstones, Caraxes reacted to it as if he had been injured himself. When it was announced that Matt Smith was going to be taking on the part of Daemon, I was a little bit skeptical. It had nothing to do with his acting abilities, but visually he just didn't feel like a fit for the part. The book Daemon comes across as more rugged and hardened, and Smith has more softer features. Someone like Travis Fimmel, who played Ragnar Lothbrok on Vikings, seemed like a better casting choice at the time. And back in 2020, there were some rumors that he was interested in the role. But what's amazing is that Matt Smith did such an exceptional job that now you couldn't even imagine anyone else as Daemon. Good acting is a way of driving out any doubts and misconceptions. Someone who might not initially on the surface feel like the perfect fit can, through their tone, demeanor, and command of the essence of the role they're playing, come to completely own it. Matt Smith's performance was consistent throughout the season, and while I think the writers largely got Daemon right, there was one time when they missed the mark.
The coming war against the darkness in the north, the conqueror's dream. Viserys shared it with me when he named me heir.
My brother was a slave to his omens and portents.
Now we're to believe here that Daemon went at Rhaenyra because Viserys didn't tell him about Aegon's prophecy, or that he wasn't happy with his wife's approach to the Greens. Maybe a little of both. But it just doesn't ring true from what we've seen of him. Sure, he's demonstrated that he can be violent, vengeful, and volatile, but he's always yielded to Rhaenyra. When challenged on the bridge, he gave the egg to her without incident. Although he was always drawn to her, it was Rhaenyra who proposed their marriage to him at Laena's funeral, no less. And prior to this, Daemon was happy living in Essos, away from all the political machinations in the Seven Kingdoms. And of course, Daemon eagerly accepts her as queen and demonstrates no designs of his own on the crown. And while I could see him independently pursuing things on a war footing that Rhaenyra might not approve of, he would be doing it to support her cause as he best saw fit. This abrupt turn against her has no precedent. They need to build up to such a scene through past actions. Instead, we saw someone who was previously largely compliant and deferential to her act in this manner. It was instilled to cause shock, and that's effective when it makes sense with what we've seen from the character. But otherwise, when it's for shock value alone, once you're past the moment, it feels hollow. Fortunately, though, although this was a pretty big moment and it came at the end of the season, it's the only point where I felt they slipped up with Daemon. He did have a bit of plot armor in his attack against the crab feeder, and while this is pretty close to a suicide style attack, he at least was wounded. There were two things they were trying to get across in the scene. One is that Daemon would rather die than fail. He doesn't want Viserys to be the one to turn the tide in the Stepstones. Also, similarly to the Jon Snow scene at Hardhome, where he's slicing through the whites, they're demonstrating what a fierce and formidable fighter Daemon is, so I really didn't have any problem with any of it. One of my favorite scenes was when Daemon went to the caves on Dragonstone to lure out Vermithor by singing to him. After the episode aired, I broke down what I saw as the meaning of that song, and I'll link it down below. Overall, Matt Smith's portrayal of Daemon was outstanding, and his depiction on the show was very good. And they did a perfect job of showing the bond between him and Caraxes. So what can we expect in Season 2? Well, I'm mildly concerned. We had that odd scene with Daemon putting his hands around Rhaenyra's throat, and there are these peculiar comments from one of the writers on the show. This is so ridiculous. We're watching fiction. Just tell the story. It doesn't apply to the real world. TV shows are an escape. Besides, George writes notoriously gray characters. If the moral police had been as strident during the early seasons of Game of Thrones, they probably would have shamed fans for liking Jaime Lannister, too. But I'm going to take a cautiously optimistic approach. We can't over-amplify the feelings of one writer. There's a whole team of them. And ultimately, Ryan Condal is responsible for the direction the show takes. And of course, Matt Smith has demonstrated a command of the character, and I'm looking forward to seeing his portrayal of Daemon as we push deeply into the Targaryen Civil War. So that's it for this one. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and if you're interested in more House of the Dragon and A Song of Ice and Fire content, make sure to listen to Caraxes and subscribe. I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you soon.